coming out on October 11th, 2024 this year. And they had 30 minutes of gameplay. So I want to talk about that. I'm just admitting it fully. I didn't watch the full 30 minutes. I pretty much just kind of skimmed through it just to see like how it is. I don't usually watch these things because I don't like being spoiled. The same as with this. And so like, but I will talk about like UI, visuals, combat, and things like that. The thing that I noticed right off the bat, which was fucking beautiful, is a UI. Now, obviously, Persona is known for its cool ass, flashy UI and very polished looking, cool, dope ass, proper UI. I have no other way to explain it. But the way the Persona games usually looked at was very poppy UI, like a lot of solid colors and patterns and things like that. Now, this game has the same sort of like animations in its UI where like everything kind of like flows properly. But the visual style this game has gone for the UI is like this more sketchy style. So from the way the chat boxes look, where like the edges are kind of like sketched in chalk and they're kind of animating to look like they're kind of drawn, to the mini map where the mini map literally looks like it's sketched in pencil, to the shop where the shop literally looks like a blueprint and like everything is like sketched. Like, I'm in love with the UI. It looks freaking beautiful. It pretty much has the polish and dopeness and originality of the Persona games, but it's in a style which I think is harder to pull off and looks better in my opinion when compared to the Persona games. And you're gonna see a pattern when I'm talking about this, but this to me, as someone who hasn't played too much Persona, I've only played 10 hours of P5, I think this game looks like a better Persona for me. So this is a game I'm probably gonna try, and if I really love it, I'll probably, you know, use this as a gateway to get into the other Persona games. One thing I just noticed, I guess I'll mention this really quick, there's a fairy with you in the game. I don't know why she's there. Again, I just skimmed through it, but like there are some scenes of you talking with her. I believe she uses a spell on you at some point, but like, yeah, you just have like a small fairy, literally like a Tinkerbell looking little shit, who's like always with you in the game. In the gameplay, from what I saw, you kind of see this desert area which has a lot of enemies, and then you go into a town. To start with the desert area, it was pretty much like a very open area with a bunch of monsters. Honestly, I didn't really like how this looked, at least from what I saw, because it pretty much looked like a boring big open space to fight bad guys, which I don't really like in JRPGs. So it was a desert area. It was very freaking windy and sandy, so you literally could not see anything. You could just see the silhouettes of monsters, and you pretty much just had to get by the monsters, and if you touch one of them, you'd have to fight them. And that's what that was. And I believe at some point in the gameplay, something happens where you can see in the desert, it stops being windy. But even then, it's like desert areas in games aren't really that fun ever. And like, same with this, it just looks very empty. There's a lot of monsters, and obviously there can be things that you can do. I'm not sure, because it's a short gameplay demo, and I'm sure they might have shown stuff that I didn't see. But from what I saw from skimming around, like, it just looked like a desert area with a lot of monsters, which I wasn't a big fan of. I vastly much prefer like the trails method, where like the way their monsters are is pretty much between towns, and between towns you have a lot of paths to kind of go through and explore to get to towns. It's less open areas and more like specific valleys and paths you get to explore. So again, this game could have that. I'm literally basing it off the one area I saw, but if it just is a big open area, I'm not really a fan of that. After that area, you got to a town, and the town looked fucking fantastic to me. It looked like a pretty much standard medieval town with like every building's made out of stone, and it's kind of like oldie feeling with knights and stuff, and I really liked it visually. It was very like bustling. You could like see all around the screen, chat bubbles were showing up of what people were saying. You can see like around people, there were like UI indicators to show that they're talking. So I really liked how busy it was, and it really seems like you can talk to people. They showed the entire map. They showed that you can go and fast travel to other parts of the map, and when you're fast traveling, what's interesting is, I'm not sure if this is a forced thing. Hopefully it's not a forced thing, but they pretty much showed and they said that usually when you fast travel in games, it's instant, but in this, it pretty much takes you into your ship called the Runner, I believe. And in the Runner, you pretty much get to hang out while you're going to the town. I believe that's pretty much what I took from it. I'm not sure if that's perfectly right. That's from what I can tell, that's how it works. Again, hopefully that isn't forced. I wouldn't be a fan if there actually is no like proper fast travel where you can just skip. But I really love the ship's design. Like, it looks really cool. It's very, very steampunky with a lot of pipes and metal and like rivets and steampunkiness. Like, I really liked how the ship looks, so design wise I really loved it. There was some character shilling where you can get to talk to them, and so I'm assuming there can be some plot stuff there. Hopefully it is more like plot oriented, because Trails does this thing like where when you had to go to certain locations for the first time, there was a train ride, and you pretty much just got to be in the train, talk to some NPCs and like play cards with them, and you can end it whenever you want and just get there. That's kind of different because that's like a story based thing. It's not like it happened every time you fast travel, so there were cool details that you could get out of that. I'm not sure if that's the same for Metaphor, but if it is like Trails where like you could actually talk to people and get some cool plot related things, that would be dope. But I'm not really too confident in that, because if you're in this area every single time you fast travel, you probably want to be getting new information every time you fast travel. So we'll see how that is, but I like the design. Not really sold on the mechanic of needing to hang out every time you fast travel. There was a thing called a gauntlet runner which you can use to travel, which visually it looked like a stick like a very like short broomstick, maybe like a foot long, that the character stands on, and he pretty much just rides it like a skateboard around town. And so that's kind of cool. Like I saw, it kind of reminded me of Kingdom Hearts 2 with the Roxas when he skateboarded around. So that's one way you can go around. In terms of combat, so there was some combat they explained, and I mentioned last week where I was very interested to see like how the combat works in terms of like when is it real time, when is it turn-based, because they kind of showed a bit about that. And from what I can tell from the gameplay demo, it does seem pretty much exactly what I mentioned last week about how it works in Trails, where like you can pretty much kill enemies immediately if they're a lot weaker than you, which is just like how Trails works, and it doesn't go into a turn-based state. And if they are stronger, you can hit them a few times and then it actually goes into a proper turn-based battle. So that's kind of what I noticed. And the combat is pretty much standard turn-based combat. I'm assuming it's a lot like Persona. I'm not really familiar with Persona, but one thing that I thought was interesting, and this reminded me a bit about Persona, that you can transform into like this monster-like state. So they showed some characters transforming into like what look like the enemies, which kind of reminds me, I think Persona, you can maybe do something similar like that. I think you can summon personas to help you. I believe they called it archetypes, where you're able to transform into them and you can become these monsters and then fight as them too. So I think that was one of the main things they were showing with the combat. I think that was pretty much what I took away from the showcase. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got out of the Metaphor ReFantazio showcase.